reports are that President Trump will be replacing H.R. McMaster as his national security advisor. I don't particularly care about that part. McMaster, like the rest of them, is kind of a neocon. However, he's a stable neocon. In the grand scheme of people around Trump, you want people that are somewhat stable and not completely willy-nilly, right? So it's been rumored that Trump was going to get rid of McMaster for a while. Now, after meeting with former Ambassador John Bolton, he was the UN ambassador under President Bush, it is now being reported in several outlets that Trump will be replacing H.R. McMaster with John Bolton. I think Shirley just said it best. I don't need to report it. John Bolton is insane. And let me tell you something. A lot of you will not like what I'm about to say, but you know I always keep it real. I think John Bolton is so dangerous that if John Bolton ever had the Republican nomination, I would vote for any Democrat on earth over him, including Hillary Clinton. John Bolton has exemplified not only that he thinks war is the first answer for everything, but he is desperate to launch multiple wars at once. And when you look at a president who is unstable and typically listens to the last person in the room and typically judges people based on their cable news appearances, this should scare everybody. So, I mean, I'll just read you a little bit about John Bolton if you're not familiar. John Bolton. After graduating Yale in 1974, where he had become friends with future Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, so that's not exactly a brainiac, he went into private practice in Washington. He made a name for himself working in conservative politics, becoming vice president of the right-wing American Enterprise Institute, and serving in mid-level roles in Reagan and George H.W. Bush's administration. So right there, he got his legs, his sea legs, under Warmonger number A and Warmonger number B. Of course, Reagan doubled the debt, actually tripled the debt, if I remember correctly. Military costs surged under Reagan. Trust but verify. We all know his Cold War and a lot of the things we see with the boogeyman, the boogieization of Russia. Reagan started that. We know about the Contras. We know about the START and the space buildup and all this nonsense from Reagan. Then you have George H.W. Bush, the original Iraq War, Desert Storm. That's right, I made up a word, boogieization. So Bolton got his tutelage under these folks. But it wasn't until the George W. Bush administration that Bolton rose to greater prominence. In May 2001, Bush appointed him to be Undersecretary of State for Arms Control, basically the top diplomat focusing on weapons of mass destruction. The position became fairly important in the run-up to the Iraq War, as the Bush administration's case against Saddam Hussein focused on the alleged nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. It's not alleged because they didn't have them. Bolton took the hardest of possible lines. He's forcefully argued that Iraq had WMDs, quote, "We are confident that Saddam Hussein has hidden weapons of mass destruction," as he put in one 2002 speech. After Bush's 2002 State of the Union speech connecting North Korea, Iraq, and Iran as the axis of evil, Bolton insisted this wasn't just rhetoric, that there was a hard connection between these regimes, an axis along which flow dangerous weapons and dangerous technology. So, I'm going to get to more, but we see this repeated. We see this now in the media. Bill Kristol and David Frum are basically rehabilitated. They're all over MSNBC. It doesn't seem to matter how wrong you've been or how many people have died because of the wars you have pushed as a journalist or a politician. It doesn't matter anymore. In this Trump hysteria that we live in, people are being essentially let out of figurative jail for their wrongdoings. And war and those who died in war. Oh, here we go again. Here we go again. The purple screen. Back. You know what, folks? I hate to say it. I think I'm being bugged here. I think I'm being bugged. This is the 4th time this has happened. But I'm going to keep going. How about that? You want me to keep going? It's Google, YouTube, or one of that. I guess me trying to report on a warmonger. No good. I'll take this opportunity. Patreon.com/Jordan Reports. But I'm going to keep going. I don't give a shit. So, Bolton, let me tell you about, some of his goodies. Oh, so Trump apparently reportedly said, "We need you in here, John. We need you in here, John." If that wasn't scary enough. But, hold on, let me find it. So, he was involved in shaping U.S. intelligence in the run-up to the war, and not in a good way. In 2002, Bolton's staff prepared a speech alleging that Cuba had an active biological weapons program. Cuba. This wasn't true, and the State Department's lead bioweapons analyst at the time would not sign off on his claim. Per the analyst's sworn testimony in Congress, Bolton then called the analyst into his office, screamed at him, and then sent for his boss. In this conversation, per the Washington Post's David Ignatius, who's basically a mouthpiece for the CIA, he derisively referred to the analyst as a munchkin and attempted to get him transferred to a different department. This was cruel and unprofessional, but also dangerous. Carl Ford, then the Assistant Secretary of State for Intelligence and Research, testified that Bolton's assault on the analyst had, quote, a chilling effect through the department, freezing out dissent on proliferation issues beyond Cuba. John Prados, a fellow at George Washington University's National Security Archives, came to an even broader conclusion in a study of declassified Bush administration documents. Bolton bears a significant amount of blame for the politicized intelligence used to justify the decision to attack Iraq. None of this got Bolton fired. In fact, it got him promoted. In March 2005, President Bush nominated him to be U.S. Ambassador for the UN, one of the most important diplomatic positions in the entire government. Bolton's Senate confirmation hearing turned into a vicious fight, largely over his role in shaping the faulty pre-war intelligence about Iraq. But his management style, as exemplified by the Munchkin incident, also became a huge issue. When Ford was called to testify before the Senate Relations Committee, he bluntly said Bolton's personality should be disqualifying him from holding high office. Ford called him a bully who kisses up and punches down. So this is just some of the scary things when it comes to John Bolton. He also thinks war first, not America first. Well, look at, he also blames every problem on their straight. Quote, I think the worst decision made after the invasion of Iraq was the 2011 decision to withdraw U.S. and coalition forces, Bolton said. So, no, it was good to go in, even though there were no weapons. They had nothing to do with 9/11. The mistake was leaving. To hear Bolton tell it, every foreign policy problem can be solved by hasty, expensive, reckless action. Throw enough money, weapons, and American lives at it, he seems to believe, and you could fix anything. So, here you go. I mean, this guy, from reports, is going to be the next national security advisor. I don't see him suggesting to Trump to be diplomatic or negotiate with Kim Jong-un, which was believed to be what Trump was going to do. I do not see him talking about any type of diplomacy with Russia. I think that it's possible he'll want boots on the ground in Syria. And I think Trump, from what we've seen, has been very deferential to his advisors, especially military. I also think, and we've seen this before, if Trump's poll numbers start going to get to dangerous levels, and it seems like he's not going to get elected, we have seen presidents in the past launch war and double down on war when they are facing issues, when they are facing possibly not being reelected. We have seen that. So this should scare every single person watching on my purple screen. #JordanPurple.